Welcome back to St. Louis. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. Winter storm Gia now underway here in the mid part of the United States, and it's going to impact a lot of folks. In fact, it stretches the warnings and advisories and watch it extend across 17 states for 1,700 miles. I want to show you how quickly it got white here. The whole scenery changed in about 90 minutes. Before and after pictures I took earlier, and about 90 minutes later I took that bottom photo here at Kiener Plaza, and a whole different environment. There was no snow on the ground. In fact, it's been very, very warm this month through midnight last night, up 7.8 degrees. Now that's going to change. We're chipping that away as we have some colder weather that has finally come in. And last month we were warmer by about 4.5 degrees. Little snow last month. We had our biggest snowfall, just over 5 inches back in mid-November. Something I've noticed a difference here, the temperature has dropped down to 28 from 31, so the snow has become more powdery. And the consistency, unlike a few hours ago where you can make a snowball, you can't do that right now. That's a good thing, because that means we have less weight on the trees. We don't have much wind, Mike Bettis, so that's a good thing too. So we're not expecting a real power outage impact from this particular storm. And the fact that it's going to fall tonight into the beginning of the weekend is also good. Don't have to worry about rush hour and school tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and maybe one of the other positives with that lighter snow, Mike, is a little easier to shovel too. We're not going to, have that uber weighted down stuff. But we've had the beginnings of this storm clobber us in the Front Range. Denver, we've had slushy roads today. Lakewood, similar deal. The plows have been out today. And you take a look at Westminster and Woodland Park. It has been it's been a winter wonderland in the Denver area. We've needed it. We haven't had a ton of snow this year in Denver, and generally our bigger snows come later in the season there as well. But that's where where Gia got its beginnings, Tom.
Yeah.
And I-70, there all the way to the Ohio Valley is going to get this snow.
The 70 quarter, that's what we're calling this storm right now. Okay,
Imagine if you were a long haul driver and that was your route, Denver to Columbus.
It's going to be interesting.
To say the least. Say the least.
It is interesting in phase one here, what's happening around the Denver area. And oftentimes wind direction dictates where the snow comes down when you get along the Front Range of the Rockies. Let's take a look. The warnings there just south and east of Denver off a place called the Palmer Divide. We're going to talk about that and how these northerly winds have an impact on where that snow comes down. So this is the flow about 10,000 feet in the atmosphere, and those winds are coming out of the north going down that I-25 corridor. So we zoom in on that, and there's heavier snow that is forecast just south of this I-70 corridor here, right in this area. So why is it going to occur there? Well, it's an interesting setup here. We've got these east to northeasterly and actually northerly winds that's set up now. We're going to zoom in to the Front Range of the Rockies here, okay? This is Denver right here at about 5,200 feet. But south of there is the Palmer Divide. It's an area of higher elevation that comes out east from the Rockies here. And as this air goes up over this divide, it rises about 2,200 feet. And that little bit of rise, as that air goes up, is enough to condense that moisture out in the form of a little bit heavier snow across this area. And as a result of that, we're ending up with more snow yet down to the south of Denver here. They easily could see 8-9 inches of snow down along that 25 quarter and out to the east here along the Palmer Divide. And Mike, it's just another scale of this storm system. So you have that 1,800 mile large scale of all the impacts from winter weather, but in very select areas, you can have meso or smaller scale effects from this storm.
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you for that. And then we go farther west because we've got another big storm maker there on the west coast. We take you live to San Diego right now. Be prepared in Southern California for periods of very heavy rain. That might include San Diego as well as Los Angeles, but rain that's going to go all the way up to 5 for you. And then we've got some snow up into the highest elevations of the Sierra Nevada as well. That's what's happening for us right now. Monterey, San Jose, San Francisco, all places getting nailed with the rain right now, and pockets of heavy rain within that. LA will eventually get that rain. We've got more of a southerly airflow here, but we're going to get successive rounds of storms over the next several days, with one lining up here, another piece of energy up here that's going to follow in right behind that one. And as these do, each one brings in, it seems like, more and more moisture with it. There's the first one. The early next week, these two systems going to spiral around each other. And then we wait midweek of next week for yet another big Pacific surge of rain. Here's our forecast through the remainder of the evening and overnight tonight. We'll end up getting some heavier rain now, San Luis Obispo down through, say, San Diego. Be prepared for some brief flooding with that one. Then a bigger storm comes in after that. That one comes in late Sunday into Monday now. And that one provides a ton of rain. A big atmospheric river going to slam us right broadside here in California. This one also the one that produces some big-time snow up around Tahoe. So a place like Tahoe or Mammoth, you're going to end up getting some big snow. All the burn scars that we have across the state, all at great risk for the possibility of flooding and mudslides. So when you take a look at a mudslide, by the way, what's that mean? Heavy rain, it loosens up the sediment. There's nothing to hold in the rain, and down comes the hillside. All right, we know that one place that's going to be awfully rainy is San Francisco. So your pizza forecast on a Friday night, order Domino's with that coming your way. Plenty of rain that continues overnight. So sit back, relax, let your stomach be full, let your mind be free. Welcome back, everyone, to Weather Underground as we track Winter Storm Gia for you. Those were the sights of Winter Storm Gia. And new information for you, new photos. There's an American Airlines flight slid off the runway in icy conditions at Columbia Regional Airport in Missouri today. That is scary, right? The plane off the main runway there, the front gear left the pavement, became stuck. Runway too slick for a bus to get out there. So 80 people on board that plane evacuated, 3 at a time, by first responders. The airport currently closed to inbound and outbound traffic until further notice, which means no flights for the remainder of the day. Tom Nizzle with us, our winter weather expert. Those pictures we saw of that plane, all the pictures we're now seeing from the interstates in and around St. Louis and through Missouri. It is a mess right now. Yeah, and we often talk about timing is everything. Yeah. And, you know, it's happened in New York City about a month and a half ago. The snow started at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. The snow started in the St. Louis area about 3 p.m. It doesn't take a lot if you time the heavy snowfall rate with the traffic. Yeah, and you take the volume. Take a look at the traffic. Take a look at those highways right now. And it's not like we're incompetent in St. Louis. We can handle some snow in St. Louis. But when it comes, timing, as you mentioned, is everything. And it didn't come down as a few flurries for about an hour and a half or two. When it came in, the visibilities dropped very quickly. So take a look at the setup now. Tremendous energy in the atmosphere here. Big curl in the atmosphere. And it's this area here where all that energy is coming together to produce lift and produce the heavy precipitation. There it is again right there. You can see that flow in the atmosphere coming across eastern Kansas and into Missouri. The warnings, yes, still warnings out around the Denver area, a few more inches of snow. But again, the big game's being played here from Kansas City through St. Louis all the way over to Indianapolis, even to Cincinnati, where the warnings are in effect. Temperatures have dropped here now. St. Louis at 28 degrees, so this is critical. And this is a classic look here from a meteorologist standpoint here of the precipitation across this area. It's like a mushroom where the precip comes up in the warm air here and then curls around and out here to produce this big shield of snowfall across the area. There's the snow across Kansas. It's coming down heavy there in places like Dodge City and Goodland, but boy, is it coming down heavy here. St. Louis over to Rolla, that I-44 corridor just to the west of St. Louis. You can see these narrow, heavier bands of snow coming through here, and it's dropping the visibilities down significantly across the
area. Look at this, a half mile from Columbia through St. Louis and into Sparta. That is going to continue for about a 12 to 18 hour period here with heavy snow. This is going in, watch this, into Saturday morning at 6 a.m. St. Louis, Kansas City, Indianapolis, all into heavier snow. Louisville kicks into rain as the day goes on, but just to the north of that, that snow continues right in through Saturday night. And it's not until we get into Sunday morning that the system moves its way out to the east here. And Mike, the snowfall is going to be significant. I went by that a little quick, but I do want to show, even without wind, some of these areas could see power outages because of the weight of this very heavy wet snowfall. So be aware of that and be prepared if you're going to be in this snow tonight.
Absolutely. You know, we've been looking at some of these, the radar returns. This is pretty heavy snowfall right for us right now, and it could be that way for a couple of more hours. So Mike Seidel right in the heart of all that. Mike, through the evening, no reason to believe that the snow that you've got right now, the snowfall rate gets any lighter.
No reason at all. We're at moderate snow at the airport. Visibility at Lambert, a half a mile. Officially at least 2 inches. By the way, this city averages since 1892, or the 30-year average, I should say, I correct myself, 17.7 inches a season. So they're used to snow. We could get at least half of that in one storm. Let's go out to Charles Peak. Charles is out there in the suburbs of St. Louis. And Charles, we talked to you 30 minutes ago. Exactly how far have you moved in the past 30 minutes on I-44?
Covering Winter Storm Gia for you tonight right here on the Weather Channel. And how about I-44? Absolute standstill heading east towards St. Louis. Just an absolute mess. Storm tracker Charles Peak has been in that, both eastbound and westbound. Joins us live right now on the phone from Eureka. Charles, give us an update on the situation. How much traffic is moving? Have you been able to get any indication of when you're going to be able to break through this?
No, Mike, I've been stuck here just east of Eureka with traffic at a standstill for the last 2 hours and moved maybe 100 or 200 yards in that period of time. We feel like there's state police had told me before there's a hill, an incline up here, and I think it's the tractor trailer's having a hard time getting up it, and that's what's causing the problem.
What are road conditions like right now? Because if you've been there for, 2 hours roughly, you've picked up several more inches of snow, which means the road can't be getting any better, and plows aren't on it.
That's correct, Mike. We've probably got here about 4 inches is what appears to be, and then the roads are completely snow-covered at this point in time because, as you said, there's been no plows be able to get through or anything because of the traffic.
All right, so if there's a little incline ahead of you, Charles, and the big rigs are having trouble on that, I see on both sides of you semis. That's got to be a little unnerving knowing how many trucks are on the road there with you that may have trouble getting up that hill.
Yes, Mike. It's hopefully it clears at some point in time. I would hope. We did have some emergency vehicles come through about an hour ago with plows in the front of them, so I'm hoping maybe they can at least get one lane cleared enough that the trucks could make it and get it salted and get some passage going.
Well, God bless you, Charles, for being in that, enduring that. That's a really rough go. But Charles, along with a lot of folks there in Missouri, are all in the same boat. So be patient tonight. It could be a long wait for us here on I-44. All right, we're going to continue to follow what's going on there in Missouri, but we're going to push this storm along to the east because for many of you, there's still winter to go, including Charlottesville, Virginia, and through the Virginias, through North Carolina, snow, sleet, freezing rain, all those things are on the table for us, Tom Nizzle. So let's talk a little bit more about this and the areas you're most concerned about.
Yeah, Mike, what's going to happen as this storm moves eastward is it's going to begin to draw a little bit of Atlantic moisture in, and there's going to be very cold air down at the surface, a little warm air aloft. So it's going to change some of this snowfall actually into more of a mixed bag of wintry precipitation. You can see where the warnings are out now here in the dark blue, including Roanoke. It gets up oh so close to Washington, D.C., but it's really going to be along those higher elevations of the eastern slopes of the Appalachians where the heavier snow is going to come down. As we play it get out, the silver lining here, it's occurring on a weekend. D.C., as you get into Saturday evening here, that's when the snow is really going to come down and begin to coat the ground pretty rapidly. And then to the south of that, you see this area fill in here all the way down into western North Carolina with a combination of snow and what could be a little bit of freezing rain as well. The good news here is Winter Storm Gia makes an exit stage right here as we go into Sunday evening, so that by the time you get into Monday morning, everybody going back to work, going back to school, roads hopefully are going to be cleared off here. Temperatures are going to be down below freezing, so I'll have to watch about some icing conditions on bridges and overpasses there. But again, mainly a weekend event for this area, and that's good news. The heavier snow, 5 to 8 inch variety up there into the mountains. D.C. probably going to see somewhere around 3 to 5 inches of snowfall, Mike, and if you take a look, the forecast for the temperature here, within a few degrees of 30. It's not until Sunday night you drop down into the 20s. So hopefully a lot of this snow that comes down is going to melt as it hits the roadways.
All right, that would be good news. And hopefully by Monday, everything is A-OK. All right, here's what's happening for us in a place like Roanoke. We have probably cold enough temperatures here where everything is all snow for us, all right? So you take a look at that forecast going to Saturday evening. Heavier snow rolling in for you here. At times, you're going to have some pretty significant snowfall rates, but I don't think it's a long-lived duration event for you. You've got some freezing rain or some sleet just south of town, but likely in Roanoke. Elevation, a key factor here. We're going to stay cold enough where everything is all snowflakes for you here, to the tune of probably 3 to 5 inches. You take a look at what the map says for you as we taper it off on Monday. There you go, a solid 4 to 5. There could be pockets where there might be a little bit more than that. That might be elevation dependent for you, but I-64 and I-81 and all points in between are going to be snow covered for you here. And we take you right on into Cincinnati. Now for us, snow begins later on tonight. Heavy snow comes in overnight tonight. When you wake up, everything will be coated in the morning. You get a little bit of freezing rain or rain just south of Cincinnati, but likely in Cincinnati, you stay all snow. Doesn't taper off until middle of the day on Sunday. What that means is half a foot of snow, maybe slightly more, coming for you here in the Queen City. Snow blowers, snow shovels, snow plows will all be needed. Let's talk a little bit more about the ice threat, by the way, because, Tom, we moved that storm system from, say, Cincinnati in the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic. There could be periods of ice for some.
Yeah, most significant threats for ice are going to be here in parts of southern Virginia, northwestern Carolina in here. And it's that setup where we have moist, warm air coming across much colder air at the surface. I'm really concerned about this area for the potential for some type of freezing precipitation. In fact, even for a quarter inch or more. And this could begin to cause power outages here. So that's a real critical setup. Keep an eye on this area here. Be prepared for power outages. Make your preparations now.
Good advice, Tom. Thank you. More live coverage of Gia when we come back. Well, the New England Patriots gearing up to host the Los Angeles Chargers this weekend, the AFC Divisional Playoffs. During practice yesterday, a few snow flurries. Had the hand warmers out. No big deal. Now, Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, well, he's got a little bit of a love-hate relationship, let's say, with meteorologists. And he's been very vocal about it in recent years.
When you play in New England, you got to be ready for everything. I'd say, based on the forecast we've gotten so far this year, none of them have been even very close to what the game conditions were. I mean, my experience of going with the forecast in this area 2 days before the game, I'd bet a lot that they're wrong, just based on history, because they're almost always wrong. If I did my job the way they do theirs, I'd be here about a week.
When you see the forecast ahead of time, is that something where you're hoping, in case the Chargers coming in, that you do hope that it is 28 with snow, given the whole situation?
Yeah, I usually don't worry too much about the forecast until the day of the game, because it's pretty hard to get that right. So we'll just see we'll see what happens.
So you don't have an artificial snow machine out here for practice?
We don't. No. Yeah, no, we don't.
You should try that. That might be interesting.
Think, right? Tom, cold air is there. Can we get some snow in there? Probably not, you say.
Probably not, and it has to do with the track of the storm, Mike. Some of these storms will work their way up the eastern seaboard, take that track here with those big upper level troughs. This is a really flat setup here in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So consequently, this system goes due east and right out to sea here. And so that high kind of blocks that snow from getting too far to the north here. Now, if we take a look at the total snowfall footprint, again, as you indicated here, probably not even going to get into New York, and certainly it doesn't look like now into Boston. So it's a due east-west or west-east storm.
You're always watching what's next, though, Tom, and you're watching the atmosphere potentially for next week, which may offer something for the Northeast.
Yeah, it's way out into the future now, but I want to at least begin to look at this because, again, this was that west-east track with our system here. And as it came into this flow that comes together higher up in the atmosphere, the two jet streams, it weakens and then moves very quickly out to sea. So let's see what happens as we get into next week. Getting into the middle of next week, we've got a big system coming into the west coast here, and that's actually going to change the whole upper level flow across North America. In fact, as we get into that Friday, Saturday time frame, we get a huge ridge building in the west part of North America and a deep trough in the east. Notice what happens here. The surface weather systems, Mike, will travel along this highway, this jet stream here. So instead of a system going due west-east and coming off the coast, there's suggestions at least that this system could work its way up the northeast coast. Now, again, way out into the future here, we've just had an update in our computer model, and it's suggesting a system that starts to move north up the northeast coast here. What does that mean? It means probably more precipitation getting further north into the northeast. Is it going to be in the form of rain or snow? Way too early to see. But there are signs again that we're beginning to see a buckling of the upper air pattern across North America, and that will bring a whole different scheme to weather.
We've not seen this yet this year.
No, we have not really seen any. We saw one early in the
November.
season. Yeah, that came up
That was
here.
it.
But we haven't seen it December and so far in January. And the long-range models have been suggesting all along, getting into February, the east was going to get wickedly cold. So maybe we're beginning to see these signs.
All right, Tom, thank you. Hey, let's answer some of your questions this evening. We appreciate everyone interacting with us. So let's get right to it. This one from Cody. I'm traveling from Louisville, Kentucky to Peoria, Illinois. Can you show me up close to Peoria, Illinois, how bad is it going to be Saturday?
So this is going to be during the day Saturday. Now, in Louisville, if you take a look here, okay, so Peoria's right there, Louisville's there. Less snow in Louisville because by Saturday afternoon, the warm air makes it up into here and we actually start to go into rain. But take a look as you go up in this direction. You're probably going to be
Which route you're going to take? There's not a lot of good options.
Yeah, and the farther north you go, the more you get into the snow. It's going to be a very, very tough drive if you're going to be doing that on Saturday. If you got a four-wheel drive vehicle and you're used to driving in the snow, just take your time. If not, you may want to reconsider.
All right, Cody, thank you very much for your question. We'll do them again next hour and the hour after that with you live tonight until 9 o'clock Eastern. Let's get you out to the live coverage. Winter Storm Gia hammering us right now in St. Louis. Mike Seidel is there.
And Mike and Tom, if you're scoring at home, we're now up to 3 inches here in St. Louis, heading for a foot. If we get over a foot, it'll be a top 10 all-time snowfall, and their records go back to 1892. More Winter Storm Gia coverage coming up next right here on Woo TV.
Right now in Weather Underground, Winter Storm Gia intensifying, and this powerful storm with a big swath of snow that stretches for nearly 1,800 miles. It goes from the Rockies all the way to the Mid-Atlantic, and we have live coverage from where we could see some of the heaviest snow. And as Gia pushes east, cities including Washington, D.C. could see the first significant snow of the season. See the timing for it and where slick travel is likely right into the weekend. Plus, a potentially dangerous ice threat also developing in the southeast. See who is at risk for some freezing rain and sleet next on Weather Underground. Thank you for staying with us tonight on Weather Underground, Friday, January 11th. I'm Mike Bettis. Alex Wilson off this evening. We'll be with you till 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, here with our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle, right here in the lab to cover every aspect of Winter Storm Gia. I'm going to take you live to Plainville, Kansas right now. What an absolute mess for you. Unfortunately, a lot of roads are going to look exactly like this. Tom Nizzle, one thing I see, there are cars out there, they got their flashers on. We don't often recommend that people actually drive with their hazard lights on. If you're going to do that, you want to pull off to the side of the road so people don't know that you're actually driving with your hazards on.
Yeah, but in these situations where the visibility has dropped as much as it has, that oftentimes is one of the only ways that you can see what's going on ahead of you. So
Really, look at these conditions.
Yeah.
The live camera here is pulled off the expressway. You see, the only places where it's clear is directly underneath the bridges there.
Yeah.
Right? All right, let's update you on what we know right now. I-44 traffic at a standstill west of St. Louis. An American Airlines plane slides off a runway in icy conditions at Columbia Regional Airport. And in St. Louis, winter shelter and outreach programs now in effect. An incredibly rough afternoon and now evening for us all across the state, in particular St. Louis, Tom, where we've had some really intense snowfall rates.
Yeah, looking at some of the reports coming in from the National Weather Service now, just west of St. Louis, one of these areas was reporting 5 inches of snow now,
Wow.
and it occurred in the past 5 hours. Do the math there.
Inch an hour.
An inch an hour. It's a very, very dynamic, very energetic storm right now, Mike.
Sure.
And let's go in and do a little bit of meteorological dissection here by looking at the water vapor satellite imagery. Here we have the upper level low. It's located right there. You can see that big spin in the atmosphere. This is the upper level trough right there. And right in this area here, right there is where we're getting all of the energy and the lift in the atmosphere to produce the significant snow across the area. Winter storm warning still in effect as far west as just south of Denver there along the Palmer Divide. But look at this area under winter storm warnings here. That includes Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, all the way over towards Cincinnati. It is just a huge area. And if we look, temperatures now really cooling down here. We're 28 degrees in St. Louis, and that's critical for the snow freezing up on those roads. Here is a large-scale view here. It's another perfect textbook case here where you've got that moisture that comes up right here, and as it circulates into the cold air here, you get the snow developing across this area. So let's zoom in to the west here. Some pretty heavy snow occurring now across parts of western and north central Kansas, and then to the east of here, St. Louis to Rolla, those areas are getting significant snow yet. Little break in the action here, and then to the south of that is where it's warm enough for rainfall across places like Springfield. But St. Louis, you're going to stay all snow for the night here. And in fact, if we take a look, there's these heavier bands of snow that continue to move through the area. That's what's put down an inch an hour in these areas. Visibility is down as low as a half a mile across this area as well. If we go forward in time here, take a look at the rain snow line going up through Springfield here. St. Louis stays in the snow overnight tonight. Going into tomorrow morning, you're still into the snow. Louisville gets warm enough to go into rain. And just southeast of St. Louis, you're probably going to change over briefly to rain. But it looks to me like St. Louis itself should mainly stay a snow event that continues through Saturday night. By Sunday morning, conditions will improve across the area, Mike. But again, take a look at the snowfall here. It is significant. A large area of 5 to 8 inches. Could see double digit in areas right around the St. Louis metro region. So a big storm and a long way to go with this.
Not every day you're forecasting a foot of snow in a place like St. Louis. Tom, thank you. So let's talk more about that with meteorologist Mike Seidel. He's got the latest from St. Louis. Mike, you look at that map there, no real reason to think that we won't continue with anywhere from maybe ½ inch to an inch snowfall rates right through the middle of the day tomorrow.
Well, at least until tomorrow morning, and then it should lighten up. We're looking at 3 inches and counting here downtown at Keener Plaza, and it's a much more powdery snow now because the temperature has come down to 28. So, yeah, trying to make a snowball. The saving grace is there's not a lot of wind. It's east-southeast, and it's not going to be more than about 8 or 10 miles an hour all night long. Eureka, out in the western part of St. Louis County, has had 5.5 inches of snow. And out at Spirit of St. Louis Airport in Chesterfield, they were S+, heavy snow with quarter-mile visibility for several hours, so that doesn't surprise me. We haven't had heavy snow down here, but the visibility about a half a mile. The arch cannot be seen. It is lit up on a clear night. We could see it last night, but tonight, forget about it. Visibility is about a half a mile. You can see the arch if you get out on the street and walk about a block from where I'm standing. Let me take you back out to Charles Peak. Speaking of out to our west and south of downtown St. Louis, he's been on I-44. He's eastbound. Last time we talked to him, he moved 100 yards in 30 minutes. So it's been a real nightmare of a Friday rush hour. Fortunately, it is Friday. You've got all weekend to get home and sit tight. Temperatures tomorrow will probably get just above freezing, maybe 34, 35, and then go below freezing tomorrow night. So we're going to have the refreeze every night and every morning going into the first part of next week. By Tuesday, we'll be back above our average in the 40s. The average high now is 39 degrees. So a big storm, but we're not going to set a top 10 calendar day record because we're splitting Friday the 11th and Saturday the 12th. So we're not going to get, we need, I believe, a 10.9 or over 10 inches. So that's not going to happen. But we are going to threaten a top 10 storm total. We need at least 12.0 inches. It's going to be tough, but we'll take a run for it. At this rate, we may get it. Mike, Tom, back to you guys in the studio in Atlanta.
All right, thank you very much, Mike, for that. It's going to be a sight to see in the morning, that is for sure. It already looks good this evening. Mike, thank you. How much more snow still to go for us here? Tonight through Sunday, and about 9 inches there in the St. Louis. But I'm going to take it to a place like, say, Louisville, because the snow begins for us a few hours from now. We'll have several hours of snow until one thing interesting happens for us here. We're going to get a little bit warmer, and we're going to go from snow over to rain. That ends up melting probably almost all of your snow in essence, and then we won't get any snow again until the tail end of the event. And at that point, it's fleeting. It's just a few flurries because the storm system is moving now east of you. So for Louisville, probably some accumulation initially, and then it all melts because of the rain. So we could pick up, say, 2 inches of snow, but I don't think that's going to cause you any big issues at all because temperatures will be warming through the event, and I think you'll be fine on the roads. In Indianapolis, boy, we've got a snow coming our way, big snow at that. 9/10 of an inch so far this year. That is it. Least snowiest start to the season in 12 years. But we've got snow coming in here that's going to be shovelable snow, plowable snow for you. Indianapolis begins overnight tonight, becomes a real blanket of snow when you wake up in the morning, and you're going to have maybe two different, if you can wait, if you want to wait and not do it right away in the morning and clear off your driveway. Got two good quarterbacks, by the way, going at it here, Andrew Luck and Patrick Mahomes. Look at this forecast, especially during game time here. We're talking temperatures below freezing with snow in that forecast. Now, a lot of fans probably traveling along I-70, Tom, to get to that game here. I hope that they got there early and they're not traveling through this tonight, because this is going to be a nightmare of a drive along I-70, which has been the delineation for the snow with this one.